All right. This is the one that changed the game. And let's see if how this video comes out. I don't want to get banned by Bandai. You know what I'm saying? Mobile Suit Gundam. This was the show. It came out in 1979. This is what changed the game. Yoshiyuki Tomino, who worked on a lot of giant robot shows in the 70s, was pretty much the mastermind behind this idea. Okay, in the future, what happens if the giant robots in the show are just mass-produced weapons? Okay, uh, that's it. Even though this one has a face, they're very utilitarian. Would you say realistic designs of what a giant robot would look like? Okay, and just like weapons, they have to be maintained. They're not invulnerable. They're hardly invulnerable. They can sometimes be very vulnerable to certain weapon systems, and it's a matter of like with warfare, it's a matter of mobility and the ability to strike hard. Right? And also the story. There's no aliens in this. There's no alien race invading. Right? It's just a war between a space colony that militarizes, that wants to be independent from Earth. And Earth doesn't allow it, and they go to war. And then you have all these colonies in between, and you have massive loss of life. Okay, they call it the space war. Okay? This is essentially, right? Tomino was born during World War II. This is World War II in space. The European theater, essentially. I can argue that Gundam is probably the closest thing you ever got to an actual World War II cartoon for kids. Right? Except it was cloaked as a giant robot story, science fiction story. Okay? That alone was groundbreaking, but the stories, the characterizations, the team pilot hero, Admiral Ray, is a damaged kid, autistic kind of kid. His parents are divorced, very moody, and he basically becomes the hero pilot of this. Essentially, because he's able to read the manual for this groundbreaking weapon that the Earth Federation creates to fight these. Okay? The Geons are the bad guys, but as you watch the show, you start to see that it's just another side of a war. Okay, you can talk about atrocities. Neither side in this show is innocent of that. If anything, the Earth Federation is shown to be very Soviet-like, to be very not. They don't worry about their casualties because they greatly outnumber these Zeons. Right? More groundbreaking things too, or the idea that they explain why these giant robots are effective. Long-range sensors are now nullified by the discovery of these quantum particles, which are used by both sides, making long-range battles really difficult. You have to get in close, and that's where these things are really fearsome. Okay? They were created originally as construction devices to build space colonies, and the Zeons decided to arm them. And there you go, a show where everything makes sense in terms of the setup for it. Another thing I'll bring up about the show, there's other things that come later. Humanity, as it goes into space, starts to develop psychic abilities. That's a huge thing. The new type storyline in this, which explains a lot of things. Also, the other thing too is, like for example, Macross and Mospeada, if you watch the shows, obviously they're anti-war stories, but there's a hint of I don't know, I guess romanticism in them. You'd say like even the aliens and the humans could come to an understanding at some point. You never get that in Gundam. Gundam is very cynical in its and more realistic in its anti-war view. Okay, humanity is always going to fight. It's always going to be struggle for power, on and on until humanity is gone. And that is, we all know that is going to be the case. Right? And so in the stories, you have tragedy, you have all kinds of things. You see how the young people that become the heroes in this suffer horrible, PTSD throughout. How they have so much doubt, where and they bicker with each other, and you see too that they're kind of pawns being used by the Earth government. Okay, who are slowly winning the battle of material, production and population over these beleaguered Zeons more and more, who they still have a romantic sense to their uniforms, and to the end they are always better soldiers than the Earth soldiers, but you know, that's not how you win in the modern material reign of quantity, and that's shown in this. Anyway, let's see if I can actually show some scenes of this, and we'll find out if it gets through to you. uh, okay, here's the hero, Admiral Ray. He's the main character. He's going to pilot the Gundam, but unlike previous pilots who are very heroic, he's like kind of, like I said, an autistic, messed up kid with a cold father. His mother's on Earth. They're divorced. And he essentially is introduced into this war by this attack that the Geons are waging. Actually, one guy took it upon himself, so it shows you like the fog of war situation where they stumbled upon this secret project mobile suit that the Federation has come up with. And Admiral is about to see Gundam. There it is. He's got the manual up. And now you see how this is. This is a war story. That's Frau Bo. That's the what you think is gonna be his girlfriend in the show. Frau. This scene right here. Alright, this is no upbeat kid show or even adventure show. This is war. Right. The world at war, huh? The world, the space war. Yup. So as you can see, right off the bat, the story. I mean, you had war stories with these super robots, and you had stuff like this, particularly Tomino's Zambot 3, which I'll cover at some point. But yeah, you see what I'm talking about. It's World War II in space. Like I said, a cartoon, an even-handed account, by the way, of that conflict, which always we live in the shadows of. Now here's a cool scene where Admiral finds his mother on Earth. And the situation is the majority of the human population was sort of foisted out into space to live in these colonies, and the people that remain on Earth are the elite. Although the majority of the population is not the elites, but mostly their servants. And many of the people on Earth are under their control. So here he is finding his mom in a very interesting scene. There's his mother's house. Who are these guys? Well, these are your Federation heroes. This is the good guy side. This is the good guy side. Yeah. There you go. There's a toy he had as a kid, but I just thought it was a cool scene just to show what the war, how it is. It's not good and evil. And this is when the parents get divorced, right? Aww. Yeah, we were all bright-eyed at one point, weren't we? Anyway. Okay, here's a sample of the combat. There's a lot of action in this show, and like I said, these robots are just—they still look kind of. They're in between the super robots, but the more realistic designs. And here, a little sample battle between not good and evil, but just between two sides here. Admiral is about to take on this ace, Ramba Rao, who's actually an experienced military man, a very honorable man too. Gun cannon, that's the sidekick, and gun tank. You got one shot, right? You don't have unlimited weapons. You see the beam saber, right? He's got one too. Obviously, Star Wars influence, but Ramba Ra is a better pilot than Admiral, who's just a kid. But Admiral is getting better. Nice. Oh. He knew it, yeah. And they met before. Yeah, well, there's a lot of adults are dead now. But Ramba Rao is a perfect example of a character who was a capable, honorable enemy. Right. Yeah. And then when the mobile suit blows up, it blows up like a mini nuclear bomb. So just interesting as in terms of the enemies in this. Right. Anyway, I'm gonna see how this vid goes, and there's no point doing all this stuff if it's just gonna be banned, right, or blocked. I'm just trying to comment on something I thought that was really cool. Okay, but of course, as we can see that these things become institutions at some point, and of course, institutions exist for the institutions. I know, getting heavy meta with this stuff, but needless to say, the show, there's so much to the show. It's interesting to see the differences, the old things and the new things clashing with each other a bit. And of course, I haven't mentioned the villain of the show. He's not really a villain. He's the Geon Ace, Char Aznable. He has like a red. His mobile suits are always red, and he's also one of the new types. That's his mobile suit there. He becomes a very interesting character across the board, and has run-ins with Admiral, who he is a much better pilot than in the beginning. But as time goes on, Admiral learns and becomes pretty much his equal at the end. Very interesting development. But let's see how this goes. I know this is what you got to do now, huh? All right, later.